In the cold depths of space, where the light of distant stars fails to offer solace, Dr. Elena Vasquez's solitary mission to uncover the universe's greatest secrets turned into a fight for survival. Stranded in the vast emptiness after a catastrophic failure, hope seemed like a distant memory. But fate had other plans. The seraphim, a peaceful, bird-like species with wisdom far beyond human understanding, rescued her from the abyss, offering not just shelter, but a new home. Little did they know, this act of kindness would ignite a bond that would change the fate of two worlds forever. As darkness looms over their crystal city, Elena's plea to Earth might be the only thing standing between the seraphim and the devastation of war. This hook draws the viewer in by highlighting the key turning point of Elena's journey, setting the stage for an epic tale of survival, mutual aid, and the unstoppable force of humanity when it comes to protecting the innocent. When hope seemed lost, Dr. Elena Vasquez had always believed that space exploration was humanity's greatest calling. At 32, she had dedicated her life to understanding the mysteries of the universe, spending years studying xenobiology and cosmic phenomena from research stations scattered across the outer colonies. Her passion had led her to volunteer for solo deep space missions that most scientists considered too dangerous. But Elena thrived on the challenge of venturing into the unknown. The morning everything changed started like any other during her 3-month expedition aboard the research vessel Curiosity. Elena was conducting detailed scans of an unusual nebula cluster in the Vega sector, a region known for its strange energy patterns and potential for discovering new forms of life. Her instruments hummed quietly as they analyzed the cosmic dust and radiation signatures, while she carefully recorded her observations in the ship's scientific database. Elena had been particularly excited about this mission because preliminary surveys suggested the nebula might contain organic compounds that could indicate the presence of life. As a xenobiologist, she dreamed of being the first human to make contact with an alien species, believing that such an encounter could reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The first sign of trouble came when her ship's main fusion reactor began showing irregularities in its containment field. Elena immediately ran diagnostic checks, but the readings were unlike anything she had encountered during her years of training. The reactor's magnetic bottles were losing stability, and the plasma core temperature was rising beyond safe parameters. Working frantically, Elena tried to implement emergency shutdown procedures, but the reactor's automated systems were not responding to her commands. The fusion reaction was becoming increasingly unstable, and she realized with growing horror that she had perhaps 20 minutes before the reactor would breach its containment and destroy her ship. Elena's training kicked in as she prepared for the worst-case scenario. She activated the ship's emergency beacon and sealed herself into the reinforced escape pod, knowing that her chances of survival in the vast emptiness of space were minimal. The nearest human outpost was months away, and her pod's life support systems were designed to sustain her for only a few weeks. When the Curiosity finally exploded, Elena watched through her pod's small viewport as her ship disintegrated in a brilliant flash of uncontrolled nuclear fusion. The shockwave sent her tiny craft tumbling through space, its limited thrusters struggling to stabilize her chaotic trajectory. As the debris cloud slowly dispersed, Elena found herself alone in the darkness between stars, with nothing but her emergency supplies and rapidly dwindling hope. The first week was the hardest. Elena rationed her food and water carefully, powered down all non-essential systems, and tried to maintain her sanity by continuing her scientific observations. She recorded daily logs describing her situation, partly for any potential rescue team, but mostly to give herself something to focus on besides the growing certainty that she would die alone in space. By the second week, Elena had begun to accept her fate. She spent hours looking out at the alien constellations, wondering if anyone would ever know what had happened to her. Her sister Maria, a teacher back on Earth, had always worried about Elena's dangerous career choices. Elena wished she could apologize for not being more careful, for not listening to her family's concerns about the risks of solo missions. The discovery came on the 10th day, when Elena had nearly given up hope. She first noticed it as a strange distortion in the starfield, a shimmering effect that seemed to bend light around itself. As it approached, Elena could see that it was a ship unlike anything in human-design databases. The vessel was elegantly organic in appearance, with curved lines that flowed like sculpted wind. Its surface was covered in patterns that resembled feathers or scales, and soft lights pulsed along its hull in rhythmic waves. The ship moved through space with a grace that defied conventional understanding of propulsion systems, seeming to glide rather than thrust its way through the void. When the alien ship's tractor beam gently captured her pod, Elena felt a mixture of terror and desperate hope. She had no idea what species had found her, or what their intentions might be. Humanity had encountered only a few alien species during its expansion into space, and most of those contacts had been limited to brief exchanges of information. The docking bay where her pod was brought aboard looked more like a garden than a spacecraft compartment. Living walls covered with flowering plants stretched toward a ceiling that glowed with soft, natural light. The air that filled her pod as the bay pressurized was clean and sweet, carrying the scent of growing things and fresh rain. The beings who came to greet her were unlike anything Elena had imagined. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with slender builds and graceful movements that reminded her of dancers. Their skin had a subtle iridescent quality, shifting between shades of blue and silver as they moved. Most striking were their faces, which combined avian and humanoid features in a way that was both alien and oddly familiar. The first alien to approach her wore robes that seemed to be woven from living silk, and its large, intelligent eyes held an expression of genuine concern. When it spoke, Elena was amazed to hear actual words rather than alien sounds, though she realized the being must be using some form of translation technology. "Welcome, small traveler," the being said in a voice like wind chimes. "I am Skyweaver Talon of the Seraphim. We sensed your distress and could not leave a fellow being to perish in the cold darkness. You are safe now, and you will be cared for until you can return to your own kind." Elena tried to respond but found her voice caught in her throat, overwhelmed by exhaustion and emotion. The alien seemed to understand her distress and gestured to other members of its species who were approaching with what appeared to be medical equipment. As the Seraphim tended to her immediate needs, Elena learned that she had been found by a ship from their homeworld of Ethon. The Seraphim were an ancient species whose technology and culture had developed along completely different lines from humanity's more aggressive expansion into space. Where humans had built weapons and established military outposts, the Seraphim had created vessels designed for exploration, healing, and the preservation of life. The journey to Ethon took 3 weeks, during which Elena slowly recovered from her ordeal and began to learn about her rescuers. The Seraphim ship was essentially a traveling ecosystem, with different chambers dedicated to various forms of plant and animal life they had encountered in their travels. The crew members were not just pilots and engineers, but also healers, gardeners, and scholars who dedicated their lives to understanding and nurturing the countless forms of life they encountered. Skyweaver Talon became Elena's primary guide and teacher during the voyage. The ancient Seraphim had spent centuries traveling the galaxy, collecting knowledge and specimens that would benefit his people's understanding of the universe. He was fascinated by Elena's descriptions of human technology and culture, particularly humanity's approach to scientific research and problem-solving. "Your species has a remarkable gift for adaptation," Talon observed during one of their conversations. "Where others might see obstacles, humans see opportunities for innovation. This is a valuable quality in the galaxy, and one that will serve your people well as you continue to explore the stars." Elena found herself equally fascinated by Seraphim philosophy and their approach to existence. Their entire civilization was built around the concept of nurturing growth, whether in plants, animals, or the consciousness of intelligent beings. They viewed themselves as gardeners of life itself, with a sacred duty to protect and preserve the countless forms of existence they encountered. When Ethon finally came into view, Elena understood why the Seraphim had become such devoted protectors of life. Their homeworld was a paradise of crystal spires and floating gardens, with cities that seemed to grow from the landscape itself, rather than being imposed upon it. Massive towers of living crystal reached toward the sky, their surfaces covered with flowering vines that created vertical gardens stretching toward the clouds. The seraphim welcomed Elena into their society with a generosity that overwhelmed her. She was given quarters in one of their crystal cities, with rooms that opened onto gardens where the morning light filtered through leaves the size of dinner plates. Her background in xenobiology proved valuable to the seraphim, who were amazed by her knowledge of different forms of life and her ability to understand complex biological systems. Elena spent 2 years on Aethon, learning the seraphim language and customs, while contributing her own knowledge to their scientific efforts. She helped them understand human physiology and medicine, while they taught her about their advanced biotechnology and their techniques for encouraging life to flourish in even the most challenging environments. The relationships Elena formed during her time on Aethon were deeper than mere friendship. The seraphim concept of community was based on mutual support and shared responsibility for the well-being of all members of society. Elena found herself adopted into their extended family structure, with dozens of seraphim considering her a sister in their complex social networks. Skyweaver Talon became particularly close to Elena, sharing stories of his travels and introducing her to the philosophical concepts that guided seraphim society. The ancient being had lived for over 600 years, and his accumulated wisdom provided Elena with perspectives on existence that she had never considered. All life is connected, Talon explained during one of their evening conversations in his private garden. When we save one being, we strengthen the entire web of existence. When we allow one being to perish needlessly, we diminish ourselves and the universe around us. This is why we could not leave you to die in the emptiness. Your life has value not just to yourself and your species, but to all life, everywhere. Elena's time among the seraphim taught her about the power of compassion and the importance of protecting those who could not protect themselves. She learned that true strength came not from the ability to dominate others, but from the willingness to nurture and preserve life in all its forms. When darkness approaches, Elena's peaceful existence on Aethon was shattered on a quiet morning when she intercepted a series of encrypted communications while working in the city's central observatory. As part of her ongoing research, she had been monitoring various communication frequencies, hoping to learn more about the galaxy's different species and their interactions. The signals she detected were unlike anything she had encountered during her studies. They were transmitted on military frequencies using encryption protocols that reminded her of the codes used by Earth's defense forces. Using her knowledge of human cryptography, Elena managed to partially decode the messages, and what she discovered filled her with ice-cold dread. The communications were from a species called the Dominion, a militaristic empire of reptilian beings who had been expanding their territory through systematic conquest. Their messages discussed plans for what they called the cleansing of the crystal worlds, referring to the Seraphim homeworld and its neighboring systems. Elena's hands trembled as she decoded more of the intercepted transmissions. The Dominion viewed the Seraphim's peaceful nature as a sign of weakness, and their advanced biotechnology as a threat to the natural order. They planned to eliminate the Seraphim entirely, viewing their philosophy of nurturing life as a contamination that could spread to other species. Racing through the crystal corridors of the city, Elena sought out Skyweaver Talon, finding him in his meditation chamber surrounded by flowering plants and softly glowing crystals. The ancient Seraphim's expression grew grave as Elena explained what she had discovered. "The metal-clawed ones," Talon said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of ancient knowledge. "We have heard whispers of their expansion, but we hoped they would not turn their attention to our peaceful worlds. Our people have no experience with warfare, Elena. We are healers and gardeners, not warriors." Elena felt her heart breaking as she realized the implications. The Seraphim had saved her life simply because it was the right thing to do, without any thought of reward or recognition. They had welcomed her into their society and treated her as family. Now they faced extinction at the hands of a species that saw their very existence as an affront to the natural order. There has to be something we can do, Elena said, her voice filled with desperate determination. The Dominion hasn't attacked yet. Maybe we can prepare some kind of defense, or find allies who can help protect Ethon. Talon's expression was filled with sadness as he considered Elena's words. Our people have never built weapons, child. Our technology is designed to create and nurture life, not to destroy it. We would not even know how to defend ourselves against those who come with violence in their hearts. The situation became more urgent when additional intercepted communications revealed that the Dominion fleet was already en route to Seraphim space. They had allocated a massive force to the conquest of Aethon, treating the peaceful world as if it were a major military stronghold. The reptilian beings expected minimal resistance, viewing the operation as little more than an extermination mission. Elena spent sleepless nights in her quarters, staring out at the beautiful crystal spires and floating gardens that would soon be reduced to rubble and ash. The Seraphim had shown her what true civilization looked like, a society built on compassion and mutual support, rather than competition and conquest. The thought of losing all of it to the Dominion's mindless aggression filled her with a rage she had never experienced before. The breakthrough came when Elena realized that she might be able to contact Earth using the Seraphim's advanced communication technology. Their quantum relay systems were far more sophisticated than anything humanity had developed, capable of transmitting messages across vast distances almost instantaneously. Talon, she said, bursting into his garden chamber where he was tending to a collection of rare flowering vines. I need to ask something of you and your people. Something that goes against everything you believe in. The ancient seraphim looked up from his work, his intelligent eyes reflecting the soft light of the crystal walls. Speak, child. After all you have done for us, we will consider any request you make. Elena took a deep breath, knowing that what she was about to ask would challenge the very foundations of seraphim philosophy. I need to contact my people on Earth. I need to ask them to come here with warships and weapons. I need to bring violence to your peaceful world. Talon was quiet for a long moment, his expression thoughtful as he considered Elena's words. You wish to call your warriors to defend our world from the metal-clawed ones? Yes, Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. The Seraphim saved my life when I was lost and alone. You welcomed me into your society and treated me as family. Now I want to return that kindness. Humans understand warfare in ways that you don't. We can fight the Dominion and protect Ethon. The decision required a gathering of the Seraphim Council, the ancient governing body that made decisions for their entire species. Elena stood before the assembled elders, her heart pounding as she explained the situation and her proposed solution. We face a choice, she told them, her voice carrying across the crystal chamber where the council met. We can accept the Dominion's assault and watch everything you have built be destroyed, or we can fight back using the tools that my species has developed. Humans are not perfect, but we understand how to defend the innocent against those who would do them harm. The debate that followed was unlike anything in Seraphim history. For the first time in their civilization's existence, they were considering the use of violence, even if it was to protect their own survival. Some council members argued that calling for military aid would corrupt their peaceful nature, while others recognized that extinction was the only alternative. Skyweaver Talon finally spoke, his ancient voice carrying the wisdom of 6 centuries. The child speaks truth. We have dedicated our lives to nurturing and protecting life in all its forms. If we allow ourselves to be destroyed without resistance, we abandon our duty to all the species we have helped and all the knowledge we have preserved. Perhaps there is honor in asking others to fight for what we cannot defend ourselves. The vote was close, but the council ultimately agreed to Elena's proposal. She was granted access to their most powerful communication array, a crystalline structure that could transmit messages across the galaxy using quantum entanglement principles that human science barely understood. Elena's message to Earth was simple but desperate. She explained her situation, the debt humanity owed to the Seraphim, and the immediate threat facing Aethon. She described the Seraphim's kindness and their contributions to the galaxy's understanding of life and healing. Most importantly, she asked Earth to remember that sometimes the greatest strength came from protecting those who could not protect themselves. The response from Earth came within hours, transmitted through the diplomatic channels that Elena had used during her original research missions. The message was brief, but filled with hope. Dr. Vasquez, this is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Your message has been received and analyzed. The Earth Council has voted unanimously to honor our debt to the Seraphim. A relief fleet is being assembled and will depart within 48 hours. Hold fast, Elena. Help is coming. Elena felt tears of relief streaming down her face as she shared the news with Talon and the other Seraphim. For the first time since intercepting the Dominion communications, she felt a glimmer of hope that the crystal cities and floating gardens might survive the coming storm. The Seraphim began their own preparations, using their advanced biotechnology to create defensive barriers around their most important cities and cultural centers. They could not build weapons, but they could create living shields that might slow the Dominion assault long enough for Earth's forces to arrive. As Elena helped coordinate the defensive preparations, she reflected on the strange turn her life had taken. She had started as a xenobiologist studying cosmic phenomena, been saved by compassionate aliens, and now found herself at the center of an interstellar conflict that would determine the fate of an entire species. The Dominion fleet was detected at the edge of the Seraphim system 3 days later, their angular warships forming geometric patterns that spoke of military precision and ruthless efficiency. Elena watched from the central observatory as hundreds of enemy vessels approached Aethon, their dark hulls bristling with weapons designed for planetary bombardment. "They're here," she whispered to Talon, who stood beside her watching the tactical displays. "The Dominion has arrived." The ancient Seraphim placed a gentle hand on Elena's shoulder, his touch warm and reassuring. "As have your people, child. Look." Elena followed his gaze to another section of the display, where a smaller but clearly advancing fleet was emerging from hyperspace. The ships were distinctly human in design, with the angular efficiency that characterized Earth's military vessels. At the head of the formation was a massive dreadnought that Elena recognized from her military databases. "The EDS Defiant," she breathed. "Admiral Chen's flagship. They made it." The battle for Aethon was about to begin, and Elena could only hope that humanity's warriors would prove as skilled at protecting life as the Seraphim had been at nurturing it. When Earth answers the call, the arrival of the Earth Defense Fleet at the edge of the Seraphim system created a moment of perfect tension, like the pause before a thunderstorm breaks. Admiral Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the EDS Defiant, his weathered face grim as he studied the tactical displays showing the massive Dominion force arrayed around Aethon. "Fleet status report," Chen ordered, his voice carrying the calm authority that had made him Earth's most trusted military commander. "All vessels have successfully completed the jump, Admiral," reported Captain Sarah Martinez from the navigation station. "We're detecting approximately 600 Dominion vessels in various formations around the Seraphim homeworld. They appear to be preparing for planetary bombardment." Chen nodded, his expression reflecting years of experience in impossible situations. The Earth fleet numbered only 120 ships, but each vessel represented the pinnacle of human military technology. More importantly, they carried crews who understood what they were fighting for. "Signal from the surface," announced Lieutenant Commander David Park from the communications array. "It's Dr. Vasquez using the Seraphim quantum relay system." Elena's voice filled the bridge, carrying undertones of relief and desperate hope. "Admiral Chen, this is Dr. Elena Vasquez. The Seraphim have been preparing defensive positions, but their technology isn't designed for warfare. The Dominion has been conducting bombardment operations for the past 6 hours, targeting population centers and cultural sites." Chen moved to the communication station, his expression softening slightly as he recognized the courage in Elena's voice. "Dr. Vasquez, this is Admiral Chen. We've come to honor our debt to the Seraphim. Can you provide tactical information about Dominion formations and capabilities?" Elena's response came immediately, filled with the detailed analysis that had made her one of humanity's most skilled xenobiologists. "The Dominion ships are built for overwhelming force application. They use geometric formations that maximize their firepower while minimizing their vulnerabilities. But Admiral, they're not just trying to conquer Ethon. They're systematically destroying everything that makes Seraphim civilization unique. The scope of the Dominion's assault became clear as Chen studied the tactical information streaming from the planet's surface. This was not a military conquest in any traditional sense. It was a deliberate campaign of cultural genocide designed to erase the Seraphim from existence. The reptilian beings were targeting the crystal cities where Elena had lived, the vast libraries of biological knowledge that the Seraphim had collected over millennia, and the sacred gardens where their people gathered to share wisdom and healing. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen," he announced over the fleet communication system. "We are not here to fight a conventional engagement. We are here to save the Seraphim people and their world. Remember, we're not just fighting for our allies. We're fighting to prove that some things are worth any sacrifice." The human fleet spread out across the outer system, their ships moving in the seemingly chaotic patterns that had become humanity's signature tactical approach. Where other species maintained rigid formations and followed predictable battle doctrines, humans fought like a pack of wolves, each captain authorized to pursue targets of opportunity while maintaining overall strategic coordination. The first exchange of fire between the human and Dominion fleets illuminated the space around Ethon with the brilliant flashes of plasma weapons and the more subtle distortions of kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The Dominion ships fought with the disciplined precision that had made them the terror of dozens of conquered worlds, their formations shifting with mathematical exactness to bring maximum firepower to bear on the human attackers. But humanity had learned valuable lessons from decades of expansion into a hostile galaxy. Human ships refused to engage in the kind of direct, honorable combat that the Dominion expected. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics, stealth technology, and adaptive strategies that constantly evolved to counter enemy responses. Captain Lisa Rodriguez, commanding the destroyer Persistence, demonstrated the kind of unconventional thinking that made human warfare so unpredictable. Rather than engaging the Dominion battle line directly, Rodriguez used her ship's experimental phase shift technology to appear within the enemy formation and target their command vessels from inside their own defensive perimeter. "Direct hit on Dominion Fleet Coordinator," Rodriguez reported as her ship's quantum torpedoes tore through the enemy vessel's hull. "Their formation coordination is breaking down. Now's our chance to exploit the confusion." Admiral Chen seized the opportunity with the tactical brilliance that had made him humanity's premier military strategist. "All units, implement Wolfpack protocol. Target their communication nodes and logistics vessels. Make them fight as individuals rather than as a coordinated force." The battle that followed challenged every assumption about space warfare that had been developed over the previous century. The Dominion had superior numbers and firepower, but they struggled to adapt to the constantly changing tactical situation that the human forces created. Every time they adjusted their formations to counter one human strategy, the Earth forces shifted to completely different approaches that rendered their countermeasures useless. Elena monitored the ground situation from her position in the Seraphim Command Center, using her knowledge of both human and Seraphim capabilities to coordinate between the two species. The peaceful beings had never developed military technology, but their deep understanding of their world's ecosystem allowed them to contribute to the defense in unexpected ways. "The Seraphim are using their biotechnology to create tactical advantages," Elena reported to Admiral Chen during a brief lull in the space battle. "They're growing barrier plants that can channel Dominion ground forces into prepared zones, and they've released airborne spores that interfere with reptilian respiratory systems. They may be pacifists, but they're not helpless." The turning point came when Elena managed to establish a direct coordination link between Admiral Chen and Skyweaver Talon, creating an unprecedented partnership between human warriors and Seraphim healers. The ancient being's knowledge of Ethon's ecosystem, combined with human tactical expertise, created opportunities that neither species could have achieved alone. "Admiral Chen," Talon's mental voice carried across the quantum communication link, "the metal-clawed ones have established a primary bombardment position above our crystal gardens. If they destroy the world tree that grows there, it will poison the entire planet's ecosystem. Chen immediately recognized the tactical significance of the information. Dr. Vasquez, can you guide our forces to that position? If we can eliminate their bombardment platform, we might be able to turn the tide. Elena studied the tactical displays, her scientific mind working to identify the optimal approach. Admiral, the Seraphim can create a localized electromagnetic disturbance that will disable the Dominion's shields, but only for about 30 seconds. You'll need to coordinate a precise strike. The assault on the Dominion bombardment platform required perfect timing and unprecedented cooperation between human and Seraphim technology. As the Seraphim's living crystals generated a massive electromagnetic pulse, human strike craft dove through the opening in the enemy's defenses, their weapons targeting the critical systems that kept the platform operational. The destruction of the bombardment platform created a cascade effect throughout the Dominion fleet, as their carefully coordinated assault plan fell apart in the face of human unpredictability and Seraphim ingenuity. The reptilian beings had expected to face either primitive resistance or conventional military tactics, but the combination of human creativity and Seraphim wisdom proved beyond their ability to counter. As the Dominion forces began to withdraw, Admiral Chen ordered his fleet to pursue them beyond the system's edge, ensuring that they would not return to threaten Aethon. The battle had been won, but the true victory lay in the partnership that had made it possible. Elena stood in the Crystal Gardens, watching as human and Seraphim engineers worked together to repair the damage caused by the Dominion assault. The sight of human soldiers carefully tending to wounded Seraphim, while alien healers used their biotechnology to treat injured human crew members, filled her with a hope she had never imagined possible. "You have given us a great gift, Elena of Earth," Skyweaver Talon said, approaching her through the garden paths. "Not just the preservation of our world, but the knowledge that there are other species in the galaxy who understand the value of protecting life." Elena smiled, feeling the warm weight of the crystal pendant that Talon had given her 2 years earlier. "The Seraphim taught me that true strength comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Today, humanity learned that lesson too." Admiral Chen joined them in the garden, his uniform still showing the signs of battle, but his expression peaceful as he watched the cooperation between their species. "Dr. Vasquez, the Earth Council has authorized the establishment of a permanent defense station in this system. The Seraphim will never face such a threat alone again." The partnership that emerged from the Battle of Aethon transformed both species. Human technology benefited from Seraphim biotechnology and healing knowledge, while the Seraphim gained the protection of allies who understood the necessity of sometimes fighting for peace. Earth established a network of defense stations throughout Seraphim space, creating a shield that protected not just Aethon, but dozens of peaceful worlds that had never known the security of military protection. Elena eventually returned to Earth, but not before helping to establish the first joint human-Seraphim research facility on Aethon. The institution became a symbol of what was possible when different species worked together, combining human ingenuity with Seraphim wisdom to advance the cause of life throughout the galaxy. Years later, as Elena stood in her laboratory on Earth, she still wore Talon's crystal pendant, its soft glow a constant reminder of the debt that had been paid and the friendship that had been born from it. The galaxy had learned that humanity would honor its obligations and protect those who had shown kindness to their people, regardless of the cost. The Seraphim had saved one lost human explorer, asking nothing in return except that she remember their kindness. In response, Earth had pledged to guard their skies forever, proving that some debts could only be repaid through a lifetime of service and protection. The story of Elena Vasquez and the Seraphim became a legend throughout human space, a reminder that the greatest victories came not from conquest, but from the willingness to fight for those who could not fight for themselves. In saving the Seraphim, humanity had discovered its own highest calling as protectors of the innocent and guardians of the galaxy's most precious treasures.